Thanks so much for sitting down with me today to talk about your family's experience. Appreciate it very much. Do you want to introduce yourself and also your husband, who's not here today, but I know that he's here in spirit with you?
Yes, he is. My name's Mary Miskowitz from Blair, Wisconsin, and my husband, Ron. Been married 35 years, and we have 2 children, Jennifer and Robert.
So you're here today because we invited you to talk about Rob and the circumstances of his life and his death. So start wherever you'd like to tell me about Rob.
Rob was a very soft-spoken, kind-hearted young person. He always loved to debate, always took the opposite side, sometimes just to have an argument, and typical teenager. He was just very, very soft-spoken, kind-hearted.
So family dinners were probably interesting with
Family
Rob?
was the most important to Rob, and when he got his driver's license, he was always the first one there and the last one to leave. He loved family get-togethers, and yeah, he was very family orientated. Basketball was another huge love of Rob's, and snowmobiling, I guess I would have to say, is his true passion, and that he shared with his father. There's many fond memories of snowmobile trips and putting on many miles on those sleds. So, yeah.
So really, Rob had a lot of interests and very connected to you and the rest of his family, it sounds like.
Yes.
So what happened?
2 days after breaking up with his girlfriend, and 2 days before a test that he was taking for the company he was working for, and 2 days after the Twin Towers destruction in New York in 2001, our son Rob made the choice to complete suicide. We had known there had been some issues, if you may. He had gone for counseling, and they had told him it was just teenage angst, and, you know, this too shall pass kind of thing. So we were pretty shocked. Ron went home for whatever reason that afternoon. They figure about 5 minutes after Rob completed his suicide, and found him. And working as an EMT for a local ambulance service, I heard, that's how I found out, is I heard the page go out for somebody that was down at my street address. To this day, we don't know why Rob did what he did. We can only put pieces together from the last weekend of his life.
So any type of issues that he was having, you were totally unaware of the depth of what was happening with him.
Yes.
And when you talk about the why and trying to understand that, now over the years, have you had new understandings of that, or do you simply live with probably some of the same why questions you had way back then?
Some of the same why questions, until the point to where you get tired of asking why. And then you learn to just accept it. I truly believe that in retrospect and in talking to different physicians, that my son was probably bipolar and probably had these issues from the time he was in 3rd and 4th grade. Back then we noticed that he had some test anxieties and different issues with his stomach, being nervous, and that kind of symptoms, but it was just never ever thought of that maybe he had childhood depression, or that, you know, that it just never was found. It just never was addressed. I mean, it never got looked into that far. So I think he was untreated for many, many, many years and just struggled unbeknownst to us. And that's something you as a mom, you don't want to know that your child is struggling. I mean, he hid it very well most of the time. So,
Mary, you really are bringing up some very important points. from a parent's standpoint when a child completes suicide that might be somewhat different if he had died in another way. You've talked about the asking of the why. It sounds like part of what your journey has been is to go back and realize there were some pieces to the puzzle. They make sense now, but they didn't make sense at the time.
Right.
And I'm wondering, too, if in terms of the community around you, it could be family, it could be neighbors, could be friends, did you feel some of those people asking that question too, maybe to you or not so directly? Why did
After
this
he
happen?
completed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did we not know that our son was struggling? We did after he graduated from high school, and like I said, he did go to counseling for a while. But Rob was really smart, and I don't know if he was just giving them the answers that he knew they wanted to hear so we wouldn't look any further, or if really truly that's, how they felt and he was being totally honest. Unfortunately, when you hit 18 years old, physicians don't typically let mom and dads be part of their medical care, which is another whole issue I think that needs to be looked into when you're dealing with psychiatric problems, depression. I think it needs to be more of a family, more of a group type of setting to maybe really get to the bottom of what's going on. I understand he was an adult. I understand he had a right to do things privately and in his way. But this brings up the fact that, was he being totally honest? Were there things that we were seeing that we could have added to it that maybe would have made an aha moment go off for somebody and we'd still have our son? Yeah. A lot of
unanswered questions.
A lot of unanswered questions. And that's just, something that we live with every day. So, yeah.
So you heard the news that no parent would ever want to hear. What happened next?
After the page went out, we were really lucky that that they saw a potential there that maybe we didn't realize right at the moment. I remember once he was evaluated at our local hospital, they med-flighted him down to Gunderson Lutheran, and on the way down here, Ron and I were having these conversations about whether we wanted him to survive his injuries or not. I, as a mom, wanted him to survive, even though he'd be in a nursing home, and Ron didn't see that for his son. In retrospect, I have to agree that that would not have been fair, but that choice was taken out of our hands, and his injuries were so severe that there's no way he could have survived them. When we were greeted down here at Gunderson Lutheran, we were taken into a room and we met with the physicians right away. Rob had been here for a while, had already been through all of his CAT scans, he'd been evaluated. And they expressed their condolences to us, and then they gave us a gift. I always refer to it as my ray of sunshine, and they asked us if we'd be willing to be organ donors, if we consent to Rob being an organ donor. It was the best gift. We were able to focus on something other than the suicide aspect of our son. And being he was only, 20 years old, he was just 3 weeks shy of his 21st birthday. This was his legacy. He hadn't lived long enough to make an impact on the world, but this has just been huge. This has been it's been a blessing, and we can never ever thank those physicians enough for having the courage to look at us when we're just being told that our youngest has passed away.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a blessing.
On the way down, I think that that some of the people listening to this may be somewhat surprised that you and Ron were discussing the kinds of things you were. You know, what do you want to have happen to Rob? Live or not live? Those are some very profound and painful things that parents are talking about, but yet you were facing it even on the way to the hospital. Had you known about organ donation prior to?
I had a very dear friend that I worked with for a few years that needed a kidney and pancreas transplant. And working on the ambulance service, we were asked to take her when she got the phone call to go down to UW-Madison. So that was something, my kids were already getting to be teenagers, drivers. That was something that they also were aware of. They saw how well she did after she received her gift of life. And, you know, when they were asked about their orange dots and their stickers, there was just no question. They immediately put them on their driver's license. And more importantly, both of the children had told their father and I, you know, of their wish to become an organ donor. And I can say that was probably the most important thing they did, because at the time when those physicians asked us about organ donation, that wasn't on our radar. That we, you know, even when we had been discussing on the way down here what we knew, how severe the injuries were, and what we were hoping versus can he pull through and at least be with us, or, you know, is he not going to be able to make it? Organ donation never came into that conversation. That was not on our radar. So when they were able to ask us, and we were able to say yes in unison, his sister and his father and I just immediately just were like, yeah. I mean, it was really, it was a gift. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it was just like, yes. I mean, it was just like a light bulb going off that maybe there is some good out of this tragedy. It was something for us to hang on to.
Right away.
Right away. They let the ICU staff let us, his family, friends, clergy, we were all able to be with Rob that whole 5 or 6 hours, talk to him. They treated him with the utmost respect. They called him by name and told him everything that they were going to do. Even though technically they knew that, I mean, technically this young man is gone. But they treated him with the utmost respect. So, and then at about midnight, once the team got there, they met with us and explained how it was going to work. And we only had one request. They asked if we had any questions, and we only had one. I wanted to stay till the donation was complete, and they didn't think that that would have been such a good idea at that time. So they asked us to say our goodbyes then. And I said, if I do that, can you please call me when it's done? And at 5 o'clock the next morning, almost about 12 hours after this had all started, I got a phone call that as we were speaking, Rob's heart was flying to its new home. That was very healing.
Wow.
That was very healing. So,
who would ever think that such a great tragedy within hours had brought so much meaning to Rob's life and to yours as well?
it's like I keep saying, it's just been a gift.
So his heart was on its way to someone new.
Mm-hmm.
And how much did you find out about the people who benefited from Rob's organs?
At first, it's very, very strict. You have to go through the OPO with everything. I will say that the OPO was very, very good in letting us know, especially the first 3 months. I mean, that first weekend, we got phone calls all the time. The heart recipient is sitting up. The heart recipient is eating. The kidney pancreas gentleman is doing well. The liver recipient, they had told us the night we had met with him that he only had hours to live, that he was just so ill. But he was doing well. And we got many, many updates, but we couldn't communicate with them. You have to write letters to the recipients, and you have to send them to the OPO.
Yes.
And I understand why. My girlfriend, who I had taken down to UW-Madison, she's never ever been able to contact her donor family. I understand that part of it, but have been going through it myself. I felt just the strong need that they were part of my family now. I needed to be part of theirs. So we kept writing letters, and they kept writing letters, and then eventually we got a phone call and a message, and when we worked up enough courage to call them back, it was our heart recipient's birthday, and so we caught them when they were having the family celebration, and then we did agree on a time and a date where we could actually meet face to face. And then we met just shy of a year from the date of losing Rob. We traveled down to their home, and this tall, just like Rob was, very soft-spoken man came walking out of his house, and he just said, "Mary," and he gave me a hug. And being as tall as he was, I got to hear Rob's heart beating again. Can't explain how that made me feel. Healing. And he had 3 sons, 4 sons, an adult son, and 3 school-age children, and he just wanted to be a dad to his school-age children. He just wanted to see them grow up. And we were so happy that he got this strong heart.
Yes.
That hopefully he could, watch his sons grow up and be the dad that he wanted to be. And they've included us in every step of the way. Invited to fairs to watch their sons wrestle with pigs, and yeah, it's been a wonderful relationship. It's another gift that Rob brought to his family that we never would have experienced. Out of every tragedy, there is a ray of sunshine. So sometimes you just have to go looking for them.
You've done a lot of speaking since Rob died. What, if you think back over all of that, what has that particular gift brought to you and to Ron?
There's a stigma attached to suicide. Unfortunately, depression is a chemical imbalance. So there really shouldn't be that stigma that there is. But there is. And this has, it's just helped us deal with it. When you go through something like that, I think we needed a lot of positive reinforcement. And by speaking about it, it has helped us heal. We're not hiding the fact that he completed suicide, but we also have this other very special gift, the organ donation side, that we could focus on and celebrate. And we do celebrate it quite often. And by speaking about it and educating people, how sad would it have been to have lost this young man that was 20 years old, and that was it. And now you have organ donation and the gift of life and gift enhancing gifts. Sometimes we forget about the eyes and the bones and the tissue and I mean, those are just as important as the life-saving gifts. So speaking about it has been good. It's helped us come to terms with what's happened. It's helped us network so that we could maybe find answers that we didn't have before. We've learned a lot in our journey. We've come in contact with a lot of medical professionals, and every time we go away, we learn something new that we didn't know before. So somebody else that just has a different insight or that we just weren't aware of at the time. So
what would it be? Is there anything come to mind that would be an example of a new insight?
Just the whole depression factor, the bipolar issue, knowing that when we took him in and he was having upset stomachs in 3rd and 4th grade, that maybe that was truly a sign of depression back then in a young child when everything else checked out negative. Those are all aha moments and things that you pick up along the way.
So it helps to be able to put some of the pieces of the puzzle together. No matter what that puzzle shows,
right.
It helps to understand them.
It's always better to know the answers and to be able to put together whatever you can, correct?
Yes, I'm hearing you say that.
Yep.
So one of the things that I'm hearing you say, and you've said it from the very beginning today, you used the term completed suicide. Mm-hmm. And I know also that there is stigma with suicide, and I believe that the choice of that word is probably quite intentional.
Yes.
A number of people use the term committed suicide, and you have not used that.
No.
So could you talk a little bit about your choice of language?
I don't think that if my son would have been in the right place mentally, that this is something he would have committed. I think my son was at a point being bipolar in retrospect and learning that. I think he was coming out of a spot where he was so down and so depressed. I think he was coming on the upswing back up and realizing that he was hurting so bad he didn't want to go there again. So he completed. I strongly feel that when people have an intention of suicide, and I can't think of the term I'm looking for now, but if they're make an intention, they're trying to speak for help, they're not committing it. They're just begging for help. Unfortunately, sometimes, and maybe they didn't mean to, but sometimes they complete. This is a young man who was, I cannot express enough. I mean, when he would give gifts that he was so excited about, his hands would shake. From the time he was a little boy until he was, until he was gone, he was just so kind-hearted. And this isn't something that he would commit. He completed.
He completed.
And you're right, it is intentional that we say complete.
Yes. He was very kind-hearted.
Yep.
That heart that went to someone else was a very kind one.